Welcome back to High Five Garage. On this video, we're finally going to be putting the motor back together. Heads are all complete, driver and passenger. Checked them to make sure that they seal, put the water in it, blew through them. They're good. New valve guides, everything's cleaned up. Springs, retainers, the heads are cleaned up. It's time to get this thing back together. First step to putting the motor back together is putting the heads on them. Getting it torqued. That includes pushrod tubes and the heat channel tins underneath. Don't forget your seal on the head, and make sure to clean any surface that is going to get torqued. So any of the threads, any of the surfaces where the washers are sitting, clean the washers, clean the nuts. I'll go through this and make sure everything is clean inside the cylinders one last time. The nuts on this block for the heads are 15s, so you know, I got a wrench and an extension just to start them, get them set. I've got the torque wrench, which I'm going to be setting everything to 30 foot-pounds. Online, they're saying it should be like 24, 26, something like that. But then a lot of people are complaining that that ends up not being enough and they have to be re-torqued. So I don't want to have to do that, so we're not going to. Sequence on the heads. Here's the 2 intake ports. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And just because I can, I'm going to be putting a little bit of Loctite on the nuts, or studs, threads as well. Okay, let's get this started. Make sure if the motor has been sitting open like this one, to clean in the cylinders and re-oil. See, even from it sitting, a little bit of nastiness. So I'm going to clean those and then clean off the threads where you're going to be putting the nuts to torque the heads down. Also, don't forget to clean the surface at where the head and the seal is going to be. Let's see, because that's going to be dirty as well. Here is all the hardware to torque the heads down. We got the washers, we got the 15mm nuts. I'm going to be cleaning these. Looks like there's actually some tin ones as well. Cleaning these before I put them on. Cleaner stuff is better. Same process as everything else. Get some brake cleaner and clean off everything. I've got my lower air ducting kind of stuff. This one, they're all cleaned up, painted. This one has, like, you can see like a little extra kind of piece. That is for the driver's side by the oil cooler. So, just saying. Okay, I've got my 4 seals. I would assume you should probably replace these, but I've actually never had to use these seals before in any of my Volkswagen motors. If it's supposed to be a thing, well, now I know. But they're gonna crush, they're gonna seal. I don't see a problem with it. I've got my pushrod tubes all cleaned up and clear coated so they don't rust, kind of just something I do. So I've got them all labeled. So I need these 2. We got exhaust on the outside, intake on the inside, just like it should be. I'm gonna set those right there. I've got my seals that are oiled. So grab a pushrod tube. So you can see that one side is smaller than the other. So put them on the correct side. Okay. There's that one. And then this one. Bam. Bam. Okay. Now, let's see. It's gonna look, it looks like, so one side is smaller, one side is bigger. The small side goes on the block, because if you try to put the big one in there, it doesn't fit. So, big side on the heads, small side on the block. I got the other pushrod tubes ready. So now what I'm gonna do is make sure that the head surface is clean, where it's gonna seal, which, see, always clean everything before you put stuff back together, guys. Okay, I'll clean there as well. Okay, so now I'm gonna put the head on just a little bit. Just gonna set it there. Okay. Okay, head is set. Don't forget the rings that seal the head. I'm just gonna set those down in there. I'm gonna put the head on a little bit more, maybe all the way on the studs. Put the seals back down. Okay. And then I'm gonna start looking at how to get the ducting in and the pushrod tubes. So I move the head almost all the way up. I'm gonna get this plate and put the 2 flathead screws, tin screws that go to the block, and leave the one that it goes to the head off until the head is torqued. That's those 2. I'm gonna put them up there, not fully tighten it, and then the last one, once the head is torqued, will be that one. Also, remember to clean where the pushrod tubes sit on the block and inside. Make sure the lifters are nice and clear. Take back what I said. Take those 2 out of the block, put the one in the head, and then it's attached to the head and will move with the head as you torque it. And then it seems like putting these pushrod tubes in, you can actually just feed them right through. So something like this. And also, yeah, make sure to use oil like everything else. So you just kind of feed it through. Make sure it goes towards the bottom of the block. Make sure it pushes through. And then that should be good. Once they torque down, it should be about even. All right, I'm gonna do that to the rest of them. Okay, with them in, I'm gonna start pushing the head in. Always make sure, watch the pushrod tubes as they line up. And just align them in the block as you go. Okay, they're in. Once the head is torqued, I will put those 2 screws on the bottom plate. And then I think once the head is torqued, you could technically take like a spark plug socket and hit them to make sure they are fully seated forward, inward, and then you should be good. Okay, now I'm gonna get some blue Loctite just because that's what I like to use. Put it on all the threads. I'm not relying on the blue Loctite, but my opinion, it just never hurts. Do it on all 8 of them, and then put all the nuts and washers on. Once I hand tight everything, then torque it down in the sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Set your torque wrench to 30 foot-pounds. It's already at 20. 30. And then start at 1. Okay. Go to 2, which is up top. Okay. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. Oh, top. And then I go through it a couple times and double check everything. From here, I'm gonna make sure all of these are seated. You'll hear them stop. Okay, you'll hear like a clinking noise on the block, or you'll feel it in here. And then if you look on the back side, they should all be even. And that is how you install a head on a Type 4 motor after fully rebuilding it and waiting on parts. Now, let's get the other side done. You know what? Bam. Back together, looking good. By the way, don't forget to put in the 2 screws at the bottom and tighten them up, as well as tightening the one on the head. I did that on that side. I now have the spark plugs in and everything just to cap off the motor so that nothing can get into it. Tomorrow, I will continue on this. Yeah, putting on rocker arms, putting on tins, intake, carb, fronts, fans, all the tins. Yeah, All right, it's the next day. Let's get this motor wrapped up. What do you think, Turbo? Yeah, she says we need to get it wrapped up. Definitely one good thing about making videos, posting them on YouTube, but just in general making videos about taking a motor apart, is I've got a video of reference of everything I took off this motor and everything I need to put back on. First thing I'm gonna do is get the push rods cleaned back in and rocker arms installed with a little wire that's on it. Here's all my rocker arms and my little wires. I've got them pretty much, you know, marked really well. Passenger, driver, and then trans would be in the back, so that's the way it goes. And then what cylinder they go to, so this shouldn't be that hard. But first I'm going to spray out the push rods, clean the outsides, and throw them in there. All the push rods are clean and in. Now clean off the threads, clean off the bolts, install the rocker arms. So I'm just going to do number 4 first. I already cleaned off it as much as I could, where the nuts sit, and the rocker arm itself, and then where the push rods sit. So what I'm going to do, cut my little wire dude off that was holding it. Okay, I guess I should have had it the other direction, and then slip it to where it goes. Make sure the push rods are in their cups. Okay, bam. And then gonna get some Loctite, because might as well, right? Put some Loctite on the threads. Okay, not gonna hurt. And then get 2 washers, 2 nuts. Put them on there. And it looks like these are 12s, I would assume. Yeah, they're either 12s or 11s. Let me verify that. They are in fact 11s, and I'm just gonna tighten these down to what I think. There's probably a torque spec, but they just need to be tight. And I'm just gonna repeat the process for 3, 2, and 1, and then probably set. Actually, you know what? I'm probably not even gonna touch the lash or anything, because technically that should be set to where it was when this motor was running, because I never messed with them. Make sure they're not loose, but yeah. So don't forget these little wires. So I thought they were to like align the rocker arms, which they might be, but when putting them back in, I learned they actually sit. So these little notches right here sit up against the pushrod tubes. So it's kind of keeping the pushrod tubes in, not letting them come out. Yeah, that's how it works. That's what they are actually doing. So, bam. As long as I can put this in right. There we go. And then they go in the slots in the rocker arms, or little rocker arm studs at least. But when you're putting this in, you have to look inside and make sure the wire is up against the pushrod tube. And if it is, you're good. Okay, next I'm gonna slide in the heat shields, or the air ducts that go on the sides of the heads and the jugs. First is the one that goes over the oil cooler. Make sure you have the seal that sits on the edge. Next is the other front one. It kind of just sits on top of everything, and I can't get the back ones to stay yet, so I'm gonna wait until I do the top 10. So then I guess it's time to do the motor mounts. I got 4 13mm bolts for this. That's what came off of it. So I'm just gonna start threading these in. I am using Loctite on these. I don't want them to come loose. Okay. And then tighten those down. Then you got the motor mounts. You got a washer and a 13mm nut. I should probably put Loctite on them, and I'm going to. So that way, that's the direction they go, so that the motor mount sits flat. I'm not gonna fully tighten these. I'm gonna leave them loose until I get the mustache bar itself on and make sure everything lines up. So just kind of hand tight, a little bit more. Cool, hand tight, just so they're not falling and loose. Okay, so they're still mobile. Then I'm gonna grab the bar. It seems that this curve back goes on, let's see, show you. Curve back goes away from the oil cooler. So put this one on. These are actually locking nuts, so that's good. These ones, for some reason, are 14s, by the way. Okay, those are all tightened up. Hopefully that's the correct way, but motor's starting to look complete. It's time to install the big old fan shrouding. I know it's got 4, I think 10mm bolts, and then you also need to put the dipstick grommet in. I stand corrected. I think they're 13s. An hour later, I found the grommet for the dipstick tube. It somehow got underneath the fridge. It was barely sticking out. Now I'm gonna put that grommet on. I think I'm gonna put a zip tie on there. I don't think we need to, but I'm just going to. Gonna put this bad boy on. It's all cleaned up. The only thing you gotta make sure is to get the grommet on the dipstick tube. Yep, make sure you get that on. And then, oh yeah, there's this bracket over here. Okay. And then, so you got dipstick tube grommet. You got this bracket coming off of the oil cooler. I think besides that, it's pretty good. Tighten those 13s down. Also, does anybody's dog just lay like right in the way? Tyrus. Turbo, she's just enjoying herself over there. This stud you're seeing right here before was a bolt because there was no AC compressor on the old motor, but now these are studs. I converted them over. So I really quick just got the washer from it and the nut, and that'll be there until I decide to put the AC on. And then now I can tighten this bracket that holds the oil cooler. Tighten that flathead and tighten the bottom flathead. Oh, seems like the bottom one's already tight. Okay, and I'll just tighten that 13. Now let's hope that the alternator works, but it is time to install it. So I know there's a Phillips up in there, so I'm gonna put this up in there. You tighten the Phillips for the grommet for the air cooler for that, and then I'll get the hardware to mount it up. Okay, so the front is a stud that locks into one of the squares, and there's a 13 nut and washer. So I'm gonna throw this up in there, start putting this bolt in. Okay, make sure it sets in its little square. Okay, and then get the air vent on there, and then put the 13 lock washer and nut on so it doesn't come off. Make sure that's pushed all the way in, which it's not. Okay, and then tighten the Phillips on the little air thing. The alternator bracket bolts to this housing, and then the adjuster's right there. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be bent that much, so I'm just gonna leave everything kind of loose until I get the belts on. If I gotta bend it, I gotta bend it, because it seems like this goes somewhere as well, and I'm not sure. Now it's time to put some tins on. Oh, the bolt is actually supposed to go through this tin. So let me get that bolt back off. So the tin goes on first, and then you put the bolt on. Okay. It's kind of weird, but that's the way it goes. And it doesn't seem like this tin has any bolts holding it, at least not yet. There's a hole there, but it's kind of just like a pin. I don't know, we'll just leave it the way it is and see where things go. Now time to put the fan back on. There's this plate which I'm going to clean up, and it goes behind the fan. I labeled that. And then the 3 bolts are Allen's. Okay, slip the plate on. Seems like there used to be a dowel right there, and well, there's not anymore, so need to make sure to do that correctly. If you look at the fan, there is a spot where a dowel would be, and I'm going to make sure to orientate these to where it would be timing wise. I'm pretty sure that's important, so yeah, gonna make sure to do that. So bam, so the dowel's right here, so we're gonna do it that way. Okay, I got my bolts, just some Loctite on them. Seems like it wants to go on just a little bit more. So after messing with this one for a little bit and the bolt's not screwing in, because this is the one I grabbed because, well, thought it would have been the same. They are definitely different. Look how far in those go and how much this curves out. That one just sits like that. So I didn't use this one because it had one broken fin, but I guess I'll clean it up and use it. Okay, got the other one cleaned up and sprayed. Not the best, but it's all right. There's a little shield that goes on top of it anyway. Let's get it installed on the motor. Once again, I'm gonna make sure that the dowel lines up. So the dowel is on this corner right here between these two. So we're gonna do it like that. And would you look at that? With the correct parts, the bolts go straight in. The torque spec for those says it's only 14, so I'm just gonna give it a little bit. 14 is definitely not much, and I'm gonna wait to put the belt on because that's kind of still wet. So hopefully tomorrow will be a lot better. We can put the belt on and it won't stick to it and mess it up. All right, it's about time to put the tins on, but first I want to screw in the oil pressure sensor. I got some Teflon on it, and I'm just gonna tighten it down. The socket is a 15/16, just saying. Finally, time for all the tins. I know I've been waiting for this for a long time. Let's see how all this looks. Bam, got that tin on, and then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, currently 7. And then I need to figure out how this back plate goes. And would you look at that? As soon as you got the top one on, you figure out how the bottom one goes. Now I can do the same for this one. And that side is done. Also got the fill tube on and dipstick as well. And oh yeah, and the little breather thingy up top. But I'm gonna have to take it back off because I need to do the front plates first. Okay, that's better. Looks real good. So there's a piece missing right here. The AC compressor goes right there. Okay, I guess that means I can install the coil. Painted the, yep, okay. Painted the strap. The strap just kind of grabs on and then has a typical kind of a tin bolt, tin screw. Took me forever to figure out TDC. There's so much online about different motors and this and that, but I kind of came to a conclusion. There's a little notch back there, put that at 0. I was looking through here as well, didn't seem accurate. Now the distributor hole seems about correct, so I'm gonna put the distributor on 1, drop it in there, and we should be good. Okay, technically that should be set to 1. I'm not 100% on it, so we will see once we go to fire it. It can always be redone, but motor's at top dead center, marks on 0, and 09 is pointing at 1. Should be right. So just for giggles, I set the carb and intake tubes on, and it looks pretty good. That's amazing. The reason I'm not bolting them up is, well, I need to install 2 studs on that one, but the reason I'm not installing them is, the thought is I'm gonna flip the motor, put the exhaust on, reseal the exhaust, clean it out, put the exhaust on, and then I'm gonna cherry pick it onto like a trans jack, and then from there I can put the carb, the tubes, everything on it, and then that is how I'm gonna put it into the bus. Take the wheels off, lift it up, put the motor underneath, jack it up, lower the bus. That's how I'm gonna put it in. So, and the way I'm jacking this motor up is by this stud and this case stud. So, seems to be the easiest way, but damn, does this motor look good. What a crazy difference. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. The motor is all together. A few more little things, and then we can install it into the bus. That's gonna be on the turbo. I'm trying to do an outro. That's gonna be on the next video. Like always, like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more content. Turbo. High five out.